Welcome everyone. Today we will take you on an unforgettable journey. The story of a simple boy who couldn't speak English, was laughed at, ignored, and underestimated. But with unstoppable determination and smart strategies, he rose from zero to a powerful speaker, earning in dollars, living his dream life, and inspiring millions. Hello, my name is Ryan, and today I want to tell you how I learned English. This is my story from struggling with words to speaking fluently. Stay with me till the end, and I promise it'll inspire you. This is a piece of my life that I locked away for years, because every time I remembered it, I felt like a failure. But today I'm telling you because maybe, just maybe, you need to hear it, and maybe it will change something in you. Because the truth is, I couldn't speak English. Not a little, not broken. I mean, I couldn't speak anything. I used to watch videos like this on YouTube and think, wow, I wish I could talk like that. I used to walk past people speaking English in cafes and feel like they were from another world. I used to stay quiet in meetings, ignore messages, cancel interviews, and even avoid talking to people, all because I was scared that they would speak English. I knew what would happen if they did. I would freeze, I would panic. I would feel like a child again. And you know what? That fear didn't come from nowhere. It came from one specific day, one very cold morning, the day I was rejected. The day I lost my confidence. The day that broke me, but also the day that started my journey. So sit back, put away distractions. Give me your full attention, not because I'm a teacher, but because I'm just like you. It was Monday, January 14th, 2019, and the air outside was colder than usual in New Jersey. I lived in a small apartment in East Orange, on the third floor of a building that always smelled like old newspapers and burnt toast. My room was simple. A single bed pushed against the corner wall, a broken white desk that my neighbor gave me, and a tall metal lamp that flickered whenever I switched it on. That morning I woke up around 5:30 a.m. even though my interview is at 9. Not because I needed that much time to get ready, but because I couldn't sleep the entire night. I had an interview at a company called Brightline Communications, a small customer support firm located in Newark. They handled tech support for online shopping platforms. Nothing glamorous, but for me it was everything. I had been unemployed for 3 months, and my savings were down to $48.13. Rent was due in 12 days if I didn't get this job. I didn't know what I was going to do. The job itself paid $14.50 an hour, 40 hours a week, which meant just enough to survive. I had applied online and received an email confirmation, and to be honest, that moment felt like winning a lottery. I spent the next 2 days preparing for the interview, but in all the wrong ways. Watching random videos, copying phrases I didn't understand, repeating lines like a robot. But the truth was, I didn't even know how to introduce myself properly. That morning I shaved my face using cold water, because our apartment hadn't had hot water for 2 days. I wore a navy blue shirt that I'd ironed 5 times, just to make sure it looked professional. It was a little tight around the neck, but I buttoned it anyway. I didn't have dress pants, so I wore my only black jeans and cleaned my old sneakers with wet wipes. I wanted to look sharp, but I knew deep down that no clothes could hide the fact that I didn't feel confident. My fingers were shaking when I tried to tie my belt. I kept telling myself, just smile, just speak clearly, just be polite. But inside I was falling apart. I left the apartment at 7:00 a.m. and decided to walk to the interview location, which was about 45 minutes away. I could have taken the bus for $1.60, but I didn't want to risk being late. As I walked, I kept repeating my introduction in my head. "Good morning, sir. My name is Ryan. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm a hard-working, quick learner, and I stopped walking. I forgot the line. I stood there on the sidewalk with my mouth open and my brain completely blank. A man walking his dog passed by and looked at me strangely. I smiled awkwardly and kept walking, but I could already feel the fear building inside my chest. I passed by a Starbucks and saw two young men talking loudly in English. Their sentences were so fast, so natural. I caught a few words. "Weekend Netflix deadline." And I suddenly felt like I didn't belong in this country. How do they speak like that? I thought. How do they know what to say next? It felt like they were part of a club that I could never join. I reached Brightline Communications at 8:10 a.m. way too early. The office was on the 5th floor of a gray building, with glass doors and a silver elevator that smelled like cheap perfume. I sat in the hallway outside the office pretending to check my phone, even though I had no internet. I looked around. Two other candidates were waiting, both wearing proper suits, polished shoes. One even had a brown leather folder. I started to feel smaller and smaller, like I had walked into the wrong room, like maybe I should just leave. At exactly 9 o'clock, a lady with red lipstick and a clipboard came out and said, "Ryan." I stood up too quickly and almost dropped my phone. "Yes, I'm here." She smiled and guided me in. The room was small. One glass table, two men sitting across from me. One of them wore glasses and had a deep voice. He said, "Hi, Ryan. Tell me about yourself." And that was the moment, that was the exact second, when everything I had prepared just disappeared. I opened my mouth, no sound. I tried again. I'm named Ryan. Very hard work, good job. You company I like. I could hear myself and I knew I was failing. My heart started pounding. My ears were hot. The man nodded slowly, then asked, "What experience do you have with customer support?" And I knew I couldn't answer that. Not in English. I tried to say something. Anything. But all I could manage was, "Yes, sir, I learning fast. iPhone call can do." I didn't know where to look. I didn't know where to hide. The room felt like a prison. The air was heavy. My voice sounded like someone else's. The interview lasted 3 minutes. The man closed my resume, smiled politely, and said, "Thanks for coming, Ryan. We'll contact you." I knew what that meant. I walked out. Kept my head down, didn't even take the elevator. I walked down all 5 floors without saying a word. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just walked block after block. I didn't know where I was going. I ended up in a small park near Branch Brook. I sat on a bench for almost an hour. I kept replaying the moment in my head, my broken sentences, their confused looks. The silence. I hated myself. I hated my voice. I hated the fact that I had let this happen again. I had applied to 5 jobs in the past, all rejected, all because I couldn't speak. And now even the small job was gone. I looked around. People were walking their dogs. Kids were laughing. Everything was moving. Everything had sound, and yet I felt completely frozen. Like time had stopped for me. That day I went home and didn't speak to anyone. I skipped dinner. I turned off my phone. I just lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, repeating one question again and again. Is this going to be my life? That night I didn't eat, I didn't speak. I didn't even touch my phone. I lay on that single bed inside my cold apartment, still wearing the same tight navy blue shirt from the interview. My belt digging into my waist, my back aching, my throat dry, and my mind completely broken. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had nothing. No job, no money, no skills, no self-respect. Just a cheap phone with no data, a broken desk with 3 books I never read, and an invisible wall between me and the world, the English language. And as I stared at the ceiling in silence, something in me snapped. A thought came into my head like a whisper, so soft I almost ignored it. No one is coming to save you. I sat up. My room was dark except for the street light outside the window. I stared at the shadow on the wall, and I said out loud in my broken English, "If I don't fix this, I will die this way." That night, January 14th, 2019, I made a promise that changed my life. I didn't care how long it would take. I didn't care how hard it would be. I didn't care how many times I would fail again. I was going to learn English. Not try, not maybe. Not a little bit. I would learn it so well that no one could ignore me ever again. And I started that very night. Not next week, not tomorrow. Right then. At 1:32 a.m., I opened the drawer beside my bed, took out an old notebook and wrote one sentence at the top of the page. "I speak English fluently, I just don't know it yet." I didn't even know if that sentence was grammatically correct, but I didn't care. It felt true. It felt powerful. It felt like the beginning. I created a system not based on apps, not on expensive courses, not on fancy schools, just pure hunger, pure discipline, and real actions. Here's exactly what I did, step by step, day by day. Step 1, I started with my mouth. Not my ears. Most people begin by listening or reading. But not me. I had a mirror in my room, tall, cracked in one corner. I stood in front of it at 2 a.m. and said, "Hello. My name is Ryan. I am learning English." It felt strange, robotic, unnatural, but I repeated it 10 times. And I did it again the next day and the next, every morning and every night. Then I moved to today. I woke up early. I will go to the store. I am not afraid anymore. Each sentence was simple, but it forced my mouth to get used to the sounds. I wasn't just learning English. I was becoming a speaker. Step 2, I created a survival English wall. I took paper and taped it all over my wall. One paper said how to order food in English. "I'd like a sandwich, please. Can I get a coffee with milk? Do you accept card?" Another paper said how to answer the phone in English. "Good morning, this is Ryan speaking. How may I help you today? One moment, please." I added a new paper every 3 days. Soon my entire wall was covered. I didn't need a classroom. My wall became my teacher. Step 3, the 1-1-1 method. This was my secret weapon. I still use it today. 1 hour. 1 topic, 1 result, every single day. Day 1 topic. Talking about yourself. I spent 1 hour watching YouTube videos on self-introductions. Wrote down 5 key sentences. Memorized them, practiced them 10 times in the mirror. Then I recorded myself speaking those 5 lines. At the end of the hour, I didn't just study. I had a result. I could now introduce myself better than yesterday. I did this every day. Day 2. Asking for directions. Day 3. At the grocery store. Day 4. Describing my job. Day 5. Talking about my family. Day 6. How to give your opinion. Day 7. Small talk with strangers. And I kept going. Step 4. I built my English identity. I started writing everything in English. To-do list English dreams. English thoughts English. I even gave myself a rule. From now on, Ryan only thinks in English. I made mistakes, so many mistakes. But I wrote every single day. Today I feel lonely, but I keep going. My dream is to speak in front of people one day. I am scared but proud. I am learning. I wrote with broken grammar. I used Google Translate sometimes, but I kept writing. One day I wrote, I believe in myself, I believe in my voice. And when I read it out loud, I cried because for the first time I did. I didn't have money for English classes, but I had imagination. I turned my apartment into an English-speaking country. I changed my phone's language to English. I renamed every item in my kitchen with sticky notes. I didn't care if I was alone. I treated every day like English was normal. Because if you don't live in an English country, you must build your own. Step 5. I started recording my voice every day. This was painful. I hated my voice. I hated my pronunciation. But I forced myself to do it. Every night before bed I would sit on the floor, open the voice recorder and say, "Today I learned." Then I would talk for 3 minutes about anything I practiced that day. It felt weird at first, but on day 9 I listened to day 1 and I smiled because I heard progress. Step 7. I stopped apologizing for my English. This was the biggest shift. At first I used to say I'm sorry for my English. My English is not good, I can't speak well. But then one day I looked in the mirror and said, stop saying sorry, you are learning. You are trying, that's not weakness. That's courage. From that day, whenever I spoke to anyone, I smiled, I spoke slowly. And I didn't apologize because mistakes are not shameful. Staying silent out of fear, that's what keeps you stuck. On February 9th, 2019, exactly 26 days after the failed interview, I applied again to another company. This time it was Allied Contact Solutions, a small firm that handled inbound customer calls. I walked in with confidence. I spoke slowly, I used short, clear sentences. I smiled, and guess what? They hired me on the spot. $15 per hour, 40 hours per week. Weekly pay, my first job in English. I remember standing outside the building afterward looking at the sky, tears in my eyes, not because I got the job, but because I kept my promise. When I walked into the office of Allied Contact Solutions, on my first day, it felt like walking into a different universe. The air was cold with the hum of air conditioners, and people spoke with confidence, laughter, and smooth English. Everyone seemed to belong there except me. My palms were sweaty, my black trousers were too tight. My tie was slightly crooked. I carried a blue folder with my appointment letter, like it was a holy book. I sat down at the front desk waiting to be called. My name tag read Ryan in bold. Just Ryan. No one knew the storm inside me. I was assigned to a small cubicle with a desktop, a headset, and a piece of paper that said, "Talk slow, smile, be kind." That was the company's motto. I read it 100 times that day. At 11 a.m. I got my first real customer call. "Hello, thank you for calling Allied Contact Solutions. This is Ryan speaking. How may I help you today?" I said in one breath. My voice shook like paper in the wind. The caller was a woman from New Jersey. She spoke fast to fast. She was angry. I couldn't understand half of what she said. I froze. I said, "Can you repeat again, ma'am?" She repeated. I still didn't get it. I apologized. I pressed the mute button. I closed my eyes. I whispered to myself, "You are learning, breathe." I unmuted and said, "Ma'am, thank you for your patience. Let me help you right now." I solved her issue after 9 minutes, but my hands were trembling the whole time. When the call ended, I put the headset down and almost cried. Not because it was hard, but because I didn't give up. I faced it. I finished the call for the first 2 weeks. I made many mistakes and said he instead of she. I pronounced receipt as receipt. I said I am agree instead of I agree. My teammates laughed sometimes, but not in a cruel way. They liked me because I tried. I smiled. I greeted everyone with good morning. How are you today? I stayed late after work. I cleaned my desk. I thanked people. I helped others when I could. One girl, Jessica from the next cubicle, once said, "You know, Ryan, your English isn't perfect, but your attitude is." That stayed with me. I built a powerful routine after work. No partying, no distractions. I was on a mission. I made a plan called the Real Fluency System. Here is what I did every single day after work. The after-work reflection. Every day, 6:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. I would walk home and talk to myself in English out loud. Today I handled 32 calls. I learned how to say, "Could you please spell that?" I made a mistake, but I said sorry politely. I would record this on my phone every day. I called it my daily English diary. Vocabulary building. 7:15 p.m. to 8 p.m. I didn't just read words. I collected them. I created a notebook with these 4 columns. Word meaning in easy English. Example sentence, my own sentence. For example, word apologize. Meaning to say sorry. Example: I apologize for the delay. My sentence: I apologize when I make mistake at work. Every night I learned 5 words, not 50, just 5. But I used them in sentences. I spoke them, I owned them. Pronunciation practice. 8 o'clock. 15 p.m. to 9 p.m. I opened YouTube and searched for pronunciation videos. I paused after every word and repeated 3 times. Comfortable entrepreneur schedule. I practiced tongue twisters too. She sells seashells by the seashore. Red lorry, yellow lorry. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. I laughed. I failed. I tried again. My tongue started dancing with English sounds. Real-life English simulations. 9:15 p.m. to 10 p.m. I acted like I was in real situations. Ordering food. Hi. Can I get a chicken sandwich, please? No onions, thanks. Talking to HR. Excuse me. I had a question about my salary slip. Small talk. How was your weekend? Oh, really? That sounds fun. I would stand in front of the mirror and practice like an actor. Weekly public speaking. Every Sunday I recorded a 3-minute speech on a topic. Week 1, why I want to improve my English. Week 2, my biggest fear. Week 3, how I stay motivated. Week 4, one thing I want to change about myself. I shared these on a Facebook group for English learners. Some people ignored, some laughed. But many supported, and I grew my English. Mindset shift. I stopped using the word perfect. I changed it to progress. I told myself daily. Fluency is a journey, not a test. You don't need fancy words. You need real ones. Speak, fail. Learn, repeat. I celebrated every small win. If I understood a fast sentence, victory. If I made a new friend at work, victory. If I stayed calm during a difficult call, victory. I remember this day clearly. My supervisor, Steve, came to my desk. He said, "Ryan, can you take this client escalation? The guy is furious, but I think you can calm him." He trusted me. I took the call. The man was loud. He had a strong accent. But I stayed calm. "Sir, I understand. Let's work through this together." I listened. I apologized. I offered a solution after 14 minutes. The man said, "You know what? Thanks, Ryan. You're the first guy who actually listened." When I hung up, my teammates clapped. Not because I was perfect, but because I'd become someone they could count on. Maybe I can become fluent. Maybe I can help others too. At work, more and more people started noticing me. My supervisor sighed. "Ryan, your calls have become smoother." "Great job," a senior teammate sighed. "You speak like someone who's lived abroad." That evening, I didn't just smile. I went home, looked into the mirror, and for the first time I said in English, "I am proud of you." I knew I was doing okay, but I wanted more. I didn't want to just answer phone calls. I wanted to give speeches, have deep conversations, write stories, and teach English to others who felt lost like I once did. So I created a new system. I called it Deep Fluency Immersion. It wasn't just about reading books or watching videos. It was a full lifestyle system. Let me explain each part in detail. The language zones method. Every room, one purpose. I divided my small apartment into different zones. Kitchen equals vocabulary zone. I stuck small paper notes on every item. Salt spoon, stove cupboard, frying pan. Every time I cooked, I said the names aloud. I'm turning on the stove now. I'm adding 2 spoons of sugar. The kettle is hot. I described my actions in English. Bedroom equals listening plus thinking zone. I listened to English audio books before sleeping. I also made it a rule, no thinking in my native language. Before sleep, I would lie on the bed and think things like tomorrow. I will ask my boss about the new customer report. I hope the weather is cool. Maybe I'll wear my blue shirt. At first it was hard, but day by day, my thoughts became faster and more natural. In English, bathroom equals speaking practice zone. I printed 10 questions and stuck them on the mirror. How was your day? What are your future goals? Every morning while brushing my teeth, I answered those questions aloud. I didn't care how silly I looked. It was my training ground. The 1-hour mirror challenge. Once a week on Sundays, I did something powerful. I stood in front of the mirror and spoke for 1 full hour. No script, no preparation. I picked one topic, for example, my childhood memories or why I want to be successful, and spoke for as long as I could. At first I could only manage 5 minutes, but I didn't give up after a month. I was speaking for 20 minutes. After 2 months, 40 minutes. By the end of the 3rd month, I could speak fluently for 1 hour without stopping. I recorded myself, listened, corrected my mistakes, and did it again. This challenge built fluency, confidence, and clarity like nothing else. English expressions and idioms break the ice to start a conversation. Once in a blue moon. Something that happens rarely. Spill the beans to tell a secret. My weekly goals. Learn 10 new phrasal verbs. Give feedback in English at the meeting. Call my friend and speak only English for 30 minutes every day. I stood in front of that wall and repeated things out loud. It wasn't just a wall, it became my power source.